Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm talking about some of the draftees over the last few years and where you might find some value if you look outside of the top 10 or the top 20. You might be pleasantly surprised at where some of these fantasy studs come from and where we might be going with a few of the more recent draftees. So come with me, let's have a look at some of the recent hyped players from the last few drafts. Before I continue, guys, please like and subscribe and follow below. I've got 50 days of fantasy starting on Boxing Day, which is where I'm going to be going through a player per day in the lead up to round one. So please like and subscribe and stay tuned for that one. Thanks. So to start us off with here, I've gone back to the 2022 draft and I've got the progression and the games played and their averages from the years that they've been in the league so far. And on the table I've got here also shows how many times they've been the substitute in their entire career so far. So with the 2022 draftees, it's over a 3-year period. And the final column there is where they were drafted in their specific draft year. So a couple of big names at the top there with Harry Sheezel, obviously the biggest name there. He has just been an absolute stud since setting his foot on an AFL field, just an absolute superstar in the first year. Is absolutely unheard of there. And he remains the number one player from that draft crop so far. But Will Ashcroft is making his mark now after his disrupted start to his career. And he broke out a bit last year with a 95.3 to finish off, which was a lovely bit of third-year breakout for him. Jasper Fletcher was the next one from the 2022 draft crop that is, third from last year in AFL Fantasy. He also got that defender status, which he's retained this year. And finished with an 83 last year, which was pretty amazing. He really stomped his place into the starting lineup. He's been the sub 4 times in his career and drafted at 12. So just a little bit of value there. I think we all knew how good he was, and he was that academy boy, so he was going to get the role, which is pretty important there. Ollie Hollands, the next one there from the 22 crop. The fourth on the list now is just made his name at Carlton. You can see he's had a lot of games played in his first 3 years and incrementally is progressing in the Carlton lineup. And I think he could maybe even take it get even more of a role this year, hopefully. Bailey Humphrey has been talked about a lot this season already with a little bit of a trade flutter in the off-season. He is meant to be another one that's meant to really progress with the abolishment of the sub rule. As you can see there, he has been substitute on or off, that is, 11 times in his career so far. And a lot in that second year, I believe, where he averaged 45 as well. So one to definitely keep an eye on there. George Wardlaw was pick 4 in that year, and everyone's been hoping. Everyone knows how good he is, but he just can't seem to stay on the park. So fingers crossed he can stay on the park and get closer to that second year average of a 78. If not, maybe over the 80 mark would be nice for George. I think he's definitely got it in him. Lockie Cowan, good one for Carlton, who's been progressing over the years. Doherty replacement in my mind, so I think it's time for him to take it with both hands. And another one that's just progressed every year since he's been in the league. So that's good to see. Cam McKenzie, another one that in his career so far has struggled to make the best 22, 23. And when he does, you can see there he's been substitute 8 times in his career so far. That's subbed on or off, sorry. But he was picked up at pick 7 in his draft. So it hasn't quite popped yet, hasn't got that opportunity. But we all know that he's pretty much a Sam Mitchell 2.0 in the making. So just needs that role. Whether he'll get it this year, we'll see. Elijah Hewitt made his way to Carlton, and after the first year wasn't too bad, but the second year he didn't make it on the park. Last year he came out and averaged 60. Oh, wait. Sorry. 61. Last year came out and averaged 61 in a season where he had 20 games as well. So it was most games in a season and best average for his career so far. Picked up at 14 in his draft year, so a little bit of value. Might be coming good at Carlton. There's a lot of midfielders there, so we'll wait and see. Aaron Cadman was the number one pick in that year. He's obviously a full forward / ruckman, got the forward status this year. But he did become a bit more relevant last year. Might have been because we saw Kieran Briggs take a backseat in the ruck. But he's definitely making leaps and bounds and starting to live up to that pick one hype. Max Michelini, Adelaide defender. I can't believe he was a 22 draftee. It feels like he's been there much longer than that because he's been playing all the games since his career started. I think last year took a little bit of a dip, but I remember his draft year was just fantastic and averaged really, really well in his draft. Before he got drafted, he was quite fantasy relevant in under 18s. Harry Ralston, another one that missed 2024. He had a back stress fracture, I think, with a disc issue, and that kept him out for a while. And he only got back on the park second half of last year. This year just gone, sorry. And averaged up there with 51.9 after being subbed out a few times last year as well. Total of 7 substitutions to his name from 17 games played so far. So we still haven't seen the best from him. He did have a couple of 80 or 90 scores at the end of last year as well, so that was pretty cool. And I think he might be able to take another step this year as well. At least get on the park. More than 10 games for sure next year. Elijah Tsardas, pick 5 in his year. And he is probably the most disappointing guy on this list because I feel like he could have had the opportunity, or he has had the opportunities, but he just has not made anything of it. And in recent years, I think he's definitely been succumbed to the substitute rule a lot. But maybe we'll see that if he gets a game next year, maybe we'll see him get the time on ground he needs to solidify a spot. We'll see. And final one on my relevant list of 2022 draftees was Mateus Philippou, who everyone knows is going to be a star. But last year was an absolute fall off a cliff. He was injured most of the year. I think he was subbed a little bit and just didn't get anything going. But you can see back in 2003, 2004, he was up to a 63.9 average in his second year. So right up in like the top 5 of the draftees last year. But last year just gone, took a bit of a dive. But another one, forward status there, St Kilda. Probably going to get in the midfield a bit, I'd say. So that is definitely one to keep an eye on next year from the 2022 crop. Jai Clark, Jed Buslinger, Ed Allen, and Billy Dowling there at the bottom. These guys haven't really had a great chance at it at all yet, but people have been talking about them for years, so I think they've definitely got something to prove this year. And if you believe in a 4th-year breakout, they could be on the cards too. On to the 2023 draftees now, and a little bit of a smaller graph here because 1 year less, but at the top there you've got Mr. Sean Manag, who was, as most of us might know, a mature age draftee. So he had the experience on his side. He had played a lot of games in the VFL before getting on the field for Geelong. He won the Rookie of the Year last year as a 28-year-old, I think. Good fun. But you can see he was drafted at 36 by the Cats. So having that age on his side definitely gave him the experience and helped him get up the pecking order at Geelong, I think. And just shows you that you can, he averaged 88 last year and 72.9 before that. So a mature ager, I reckon, is the way to go if you're going to pick draftees sometimes, especially if you want instant kind of relevance. In their first or second year, they've got the experience. If they can get the role, if they are exactly what that club needed, which is what Sean Manag was for Geelong, then they are going to be a sure thing when they get drafted. Archie Roberts was the second best player from the 2023 draftees last year. He was picked up at 54 in that year's draft, so a huge bit of value for Essendon there. And he has not been the sub once since starting his career. So they've given him the all clear. 23 games last year for him after just getting a couple at the end of his first year. But look at that consistency, up at 85 in his second year. And yeah, what a great pickup he was, and really under the clouds last year to get second in his draft class for his second year in the league. Kobe McKercher was the highest draft pick to make the top 5 there. He was the second selection in that year's draft. And we all know he's going to be an absolute jet for the next 10 to 15 years. The man's so fast. He's freakish with the ball. He's got a fantastic left boot. And yeah, off the half back, fantastic position for him to just explode. And I think he had a bit of injury crisis in his career so far. So if he can just stay on the field and yeah, just keep growing, I reckon he's going to go up and up as we go this year. Kane McAuliffe at number 4 there. We all know, if you've watched my videos before, he's my man. I love Kane McAuliffe, and even though he hasn't played a whole lot of games yet, only the 14 to his name, he averages well when he gets on the park. So 73.6 average for him last year, and he was picked up at 40 in his draft year. So value straight away. Another value here, Joel Frazier, who's got forward status for this season after defender last year. Another one that took a nice jump up into the 70 average last year, and another one that, I don't know, just he's got that explosiveness to him. He's just really crafty. He's got a bit of hype ever since he was drafted at the Dogs, and I just love him. With that forward status in particular, that is going to be a little bit of a game changer, I think, this year, and possibly a third-year breakout for him, I would imagine. Lawson Humphreys, another fantastic value pick for fantasy managers last year. Picked up at 63 in his draft year, and he's averaged 70 so far since starting the league, which nothing to sneeze at. Last year, I thought he might have gone a bit better, especially with Tom Stewart out, but just didn't quite hit the mark. But again, he's got flair. He's very, very talented, and another guy that's got the role at his team. Even though he's picked way down there at 63, he's got the role more than some of these other high draft picks. Speaking of high draft picks, Harley Reid was the 7th best player in the second year for the 2023 draftees. 66 for him after averaging the exact same the year before. So that's a tough one because obviously there's lots of hype with Harley and everyone knows his name at this point. But in all honesty, the fantasy game has been inconsistent in his draft year and everything, because he can play a lot of roles. He can go forward. He can even go back. He is needed, and they can put him where he's needed, even though that might not mean he's going to rack it up. So, but maybe, who knows? Who knows with Harley Reid? He's going to be a phenomenon regardless, and hopefully we can see him up his fantasy game this year. Doesn't have the forward status to go with it, though, so that's a bit disappointing. Riley Sanders does, though, and that's the guy that's been on my card since he got drafted. He was the best inside midfielder in his draft class, and I reckon another year older, another year of not getting bevoed like his first year, but last year he definitely got on the park a bit more and wasn't subbed quite as much, but was playing a bit more forward, I think. So I'm hoping for big things this year. I think he got a little injury recently, so hoping he can make it on the park round 1. Dan Curtin, another one that made a good rise from the first year. He upped his average by almost doubled it, or doubled it, more than doubled it. And he was notoriously subbed in his first year, being subbed at least 4 or 5 times, I think. But yeah, picked 6, and slowly, I think he's going to be more and more relevant. Unfortunately, he's just mid only this year, though. So hopefully he can pick up DPP at one stage. Darcy Wilson, another absolute running machine at the Saints. He's very, very consistent. He's always going to be on the field, I think. He's going to be a winger for the next 10, 15 years. And yeah, got that forward status. Knows how to kick a goal. So picked up at 18. A little bit of value. I think he is definitely one that, again, in their draft year, he absolutely killed it. And St Kilda, you never know. I reckon there's definitely a spot for him there, and maybe taking that Brad Hill role a little bit more this year. Will Graham for the Suns. I don't know, with all the influx of draftees over the last few years, you don't know how the Suns are going to go. But he has been the best of that draftee crop. So even with Jake Rogers and Ethan Reed and I think it's Jed Walter that year as well. Yeah, he's on the notable absentee list there. But Will Graham is, in my opinion, the most fantasy relevant of that draftee crop. He is able to play the wing, the midfield. He was defender status last year. He's forward status this year. So he gets around the park. Again, with all these draftees and trades at the Gold Coast, we'll have to wait and see how he goes. But he's one that has maybe didn't get as many games last year, but got a little bit of relevance to him, I think. One that is relevant, I think, this year in particular is Clay Hall, his inside midfielder from his draft class. I'd like to say he was like the top 3 or 4 inside midfielder from the draft class, in my opinion. He's a real goer, just a machine in the middle. I really hope he can play more games than he has this coming year, because if he can get on the park and without that sub rule, yeah, could be a third year breakout for Clay Hall on the cards for sure. Caleb Windsor has had the games so far, so he's had a bit of experience, but just hasn't really done anything with it as far as racking in the stats. His defender status this year, so that's a positive, but yeah, we'll have to wait, hoping he can up it a bit this year as well. And lastly on my list there, Caden Cleary from the Sydney Swans. He, in my opinion, is another fantastic inside-outside midfielder who has forward status and is entering his 3rd year in the league, hoping he can get more opportunity. And as you can see there, he's been subbed off 7 times, or been subbed on or off 7 times so far in his career. So that has definitely dipped his average. And yeah, with that sub rule gone, he could definitely be one that benefits. Jed Walter, Zane Dersma, and Nick Watson there. Just a couple of higher picks that people might get buzzed about, but so far really haven't shown any fantasy game to them. They haven't had the opportunities like Dersma maybe, and Walter a little bit more last year. Nick Watson does have the opportunity. He's played a lot, but he just... I don't know, he has one flash in the pan. He's a small forward, so not the most consistent kind of player. But yeah, just another high draft pick that people might think, yeah, he picked at 5, so he must be good, but not the most fantasy relevant. All right, on to the guys that made their debuts last year. And another familiar name at the top there in the form of an Ashcroft, Levi variety. He was the standout from last year's draft crop. Averaging 72 from every single game played. He played every in-season game and then played 4 finals to go with it. Yeah, just an absolute stud. First year, 72.2. That's what you'd probably expect from a high draft pick like him, an accumulating midfielder. But yeah, second year, can he do anything like his brother did? Can he get closer to that 80 mark? I reckon he can, because he is just an absolute freak. I remember his VFL games when he wasn't even drafted yet, hadn't even made it onto the Lions list properly, but he played a game or 2 of VFL and absolutely smoked them. So that's VFL, I know, but yeah, he's got some real oomph to him. And I reckon we're going to see him kick it up this year. Picked at 5, so yeah, he should have gone at 1 or 2 though. Sam Davidson was the second best player from last year's draft crop. He is a mature ager, so he was a little bit older than some of the other guys in his draft crop, but yeah, had the forward status and yeah, came to play early in the season, and that was a good surprise for some fantasy managers. Hopefully he can bring it again this season. Hopefully he can do like a Sean Manag from last year, and yeah, maybe he can get up into the 70s a bit more for the Western Bulldogs. That'll be nice. Harvey Langford, he's going to be a superstar too. First year last year, averaged 62.7 from 22 games played and only got subbed off once very early in that year. Yeah, he's going to be second or third banana with Jack Steele and Jack Viney this year. I think he's going to be one of the best improvers from this year's draft crop in 2026. Angus Clark there of Essendon, another one that maybe a lot of people didn't know about coming into the season. Just no one really had him on their radars, but he finished as the fourth best rookie for last year. And so taking on that Mason Redman or Jordan Ridley role in the back, and was able to clunk some marks and get his hands on it a bit from his 14 games. And he didn't get subbed off once. So that is a true first year average there from him. Didn't even get subbed on or off. And he was picked up at pick 39. So a little bit of value there. Another mature ager was Riley Bice from Sydney. He was part of that Werribee squad in 2024 that made the premiership, won the premiership, and went straight into Sydney and started off on fire last year. I thought it was right up in the 80s, 90s for the first few rounds, and then second half of the year wasn't great. So dipped on all the way down to an average of 56.7. But again, he's a mature ager. He's got a little bit more experience than a couple of these other guys, and I expect him to probably stay up close to the top 5 for this year ahead from this year's draft crop. Murphy Reed, absolute superstar again. This guy's going to have a 15-year plus career. He's just very, very great IQ with the ball, just really innovative. Pulled off some real masterclass moves last year, and he played a total of 24 games, which added played a final, which was good for experience, and didn't get subbed on or off once. So see, he had a role there well and truly at Fremantle last year, and another one that just more games into him, I can see him going up and progressing. Luke Traynor, he was, again, I've said this a few times here, he was a very high prospect in his draft year. Could have been a top 5. Ended up going all the way down to 21 in his draft. And he averaged, 6th or 7th best last year in his first year at Richmond. Played 21 games as, that intercepting, marking defender down back. And I think with Richmond the way they are, he could once again be an integral part of that team with Loston and a few others down back there leading the way. He could definitely get his hands on it a bit more. And I think he's got that high draft pick aura about him or something. He's a very, very talented guy. And as far as defenders go in a Richmond lineup, I think I wouldn't mind picking a Richmond defender or two this year. So keep an eye on him. The pick 1 from last year, Sam Lawler, is a forward, so that's good to know, but only played 11 games last year, so didn't get the most time on the park, and his one substitution, I think, came in that last game he played. I think he got injured. It just goes to show the number 1 pick might not be the best fantasy player in his draft year. We'll wait and see. Maybe he will be in the years to come. But one that I really liked in his draft year was Xavier Lindsay. I think this guy had a good few games last year, and he did pretty well in a couple of them too. Looked like he'd been there for years. So very, very professional footballer already, I feel. And just has a fantastic attitude about him too. I love the way he talks. Got 18 games last year and got subbed off 5 times in that time as well. So might have a little bit of a bump up in the year to come with a year older and no more sub rule. So hopefully Xavier Lindsay can get on the park and really stomp his mark on it in year 2. Sam Marshall for Brisbane is going to do well if he's in a good team. But is he going to get there every week? I hope so, because he's probably in the best 22 or 23 for this year, I'd say. Even though it is a very hard team to crack into. He did. He cracked into it last year and he played 11 games and he was subbed 6 times in that time as well. So little one to look forward to there. I think we're going to see big things from Sam Marshall in the next couple of years. Toby Travalia, another one, St Kilda defenders. Love St Kilda defenders. He didn't get a whole lot of games. He got 12 games in the end and probably just didn't get the role last year that we saw him get in his draft year. I think he's a very, very talented, very, very fast midfielder by trade, but also has that strong capability out of the defensive half and fantastic running capability as well. So a little bit of a Nick Riewoldt running machine there, I think, for St Kilda there. So a little bit of Nick Riewoldt vibes out of the halfback. Tom Gross was a little bit of a jumper up from last year because he was drafted at pick 46, but he got 8 games into him last year and he was subbed in 5 of them. So not the biggest run at it, but even the run he did have didn't get much time on ground. So I just think he's one to keep an eye on. He was really good in his draft year, and with West Coast the way they are, they could be giving the ball to all kinds of young kids this year, and I think he's one of them. Sid Draper, the most subbed player from the 2024 draftees last year. He played in 10 games, but was subbed on or off in 8 of them. So ended up with an average of 29 in the end. But he was pick 4 last year. And coming into that draft, everyone was just saying, wow, this guy is going to be unreal. This guy's going to be the midfielder at wherever he goes for the next 10 years. He's going to be leading as a very professional footballer, this guy. And Matthew Nicks loves to sub out the rookies at Adelaide in their first year. So I expect him to not be, there's no sub this year, so that's a bonus, but I expect him to get on the park a lot more next year. Hopefully we can see him play closer to 20 games. And if he does, I reckon he could be well up 60, 70 average in his second year. And finally, for the 2024 draftees there, Leo Lombard, the Gold Coast Academy player from last year's draft. He is an absolute unit. He's just got a head on him that just you don't want to mess with. This guy means business when he gets the ball. But he only played 4 games last year at an average of 23 and subbed on or off in 3 of those. I think he sustained an injury early in one of those as well. So he didn't get much of a crack at it last year, but I'm hoping he will come good this year, especially with no sub rule. Again, Gold Coast is a weird one because so many draftees and tradees with Petrarca and Jamara coming in. So interesting time there, but I think Gold Coast is going to put their faith in their academy kids. I think players like Leo Lombard and Jake Rogers and a few of these other guys, the new guys too, which we're about to get to, they're all going to come in a lot more this year. A couple of notable absentees there, very, very relevant for this year ahead, I feel, though. Jagger Smith, Carlton, number 3 pick last year. ACL start of last year, and I think he's running again soon, or if he's not already. And as soon as he is on the field, you should have him in your teams and be drafting him pretty early, especially in keeper leagues if he isn't drafted already. But this guy is a freak. He is so zippy, so fast, and I'm expecting huge things from him in his career. That kind of shift or the struggle to get into the team at Carlton might be a bit of an uphill battle, but he was picked at 3, and I remember how badly Carlton wanted Jagger Smith. So I expect as soon as he's ready to go, he's going to be fit and firing in the middle. So big one there. Josh Smiley and Taj Houghton from the Tigers last year in their little super draft as well. Smiley in particular, he was fantastic in his draft year. Oh, in fact, so was Houghton. Both of them were amazing in their draft year. And Taj Houghton did get on the field a little bit at the end of the year because he was injured, I think, with an ACL most of last year. And Josh Smiley just was also injured all last year as well. So 2 big name draft picks from last year's draft that to keep an eye on this year for sure. Which brings us to this year's crop of draftees. And after looking at the years gone by, you can't really put your faith in just the top 10. You definitely have to look outside of the top 10, especially when it comes to AFL fantasy scores. And here's a couple of big names from this year's draft. Of course, you got Willem Dersma, Zeke Hewland, Daniel Annabelle, always say it wrong. Yeah, Dyson Sharp there. Fantastic fantasy game from him for Adelaide this year. Sam Cumming, expecting him to get a lot of opportunity at Richmond this year as well. He is an absolute grunt on the ball. A couple of Gold Coast boys there again, so the squeeze is real. Dylan Patterson, Bo Adensol, Jai Murray, all these guys are fantastic. Like seriously, they have been racking it up in the VFL and the under-18s, and they've been a part of the academies at Gold Coast for a while, so Any of those guys could be well on the cards for a debut early next year, and I reckon all four of those guys will be part of the Gold Coast starting lineup in a year or two, definitely. Lachlan Carmichael might be one that people haven't heard too much about so far, but he had a fantastic draft year last year and was a Sydney Academy player, I believe, but was picked up by the Western Bulldogs in the end, so could be opportunity there for him. I think he's going to be a direct Bailey Dale replacement in due time, and just another one to keep an eye on there. Josh Lindsay to the Eagles, a defender kicking out at the Eagles. Sounds good to me, especially, there's no Duggan, there's no Hearn, there's McGovern's gone now. They're shuffling at West Coast a lot. And he could be one. He was definitely the best distributor from this year's draft crop out of the back half. Had a fantastic kick to handball ratio. I think like Heath Shaw a few years ago, where like 30 kicks to 5 handballs kind of stuff. He just loves to get on the boot, does Josh Lindsay. Jack Dalton, another one who had fantastic fantasy pedigree for his under-18 team. Hawthorn's going to be hard to crack into, though. I'm interested to see if he gets a debut, so another one to keep an eye on. Hunter Holmes, the brother of Max, is another one that I imagine is that brotherly love, that Geelong love. He could be one that gets a game early as well. Sam Swadling from Western Australia got picked up by Collingwood, and he is an absolute bull of a midfielder and someone that Collingwood could be in use of soon. We've been saying it for years with Penderbury and Sidebottom and De Goey. Even Crisp is getting a little bit older now, so I reckon Sam Swadling, if he can get a game, he is an absolute bull in the middle, just an absolute accumulator. And yeah, another lower draft pick from last year that I reckon will be a top 10 fantasy player from his draft crop. Billy Cootie was a VFL player from this year. I think he was a mature ager when he got picked up by Sydney. And yeah, mature ages from this video, if you hadn't noticed, the mature ages seem to obviously hit the board a bit earlier than some of the other draftees. They've just got that experience. They can cement their role. They know their role better than some of these kids do. And yeah, they can just cement themselves in the team. So we'll see how Billy Cootie goes at Sydney. It is pretty hard for draftees to make it into that squad in their first year. But again, mature ager could be one to keep an eye on. Fred Rodriguez from the West got picked up by West Coast in the rookie draft. Another one that has fantastic fantasy pedigree. Inside midfielder, just racks it up on the inside. And yeah, has the forward status, which is very, very interesting. And I reckon he is very well and truly in the cards for a early debut next year. And finally, Ollie Greaves, who a lot of people were surprised to see he didn't get picked up in the national draft. Big hype around him as a big body inside midfielder. He must have been devastated not to be picked up in the draft, but maybe he knew Hawthorn was going to pick him up the very next day, which is exactly what they did. And again, another one that's going to maybe struggle to make it into the team early, but when he does, keep an eye on him. Another big body inside midfielder who just, I think he averaged well over 110 in the under-18 championships this year. So fantastic option there. But yeah, there you have it, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the draftees over the last couple of years, and who do you think's going to pop this year? Is it going to be a first year, second year, third year, 10th year breakout on the cards for someone? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and please like and subscribe and follow me on Blue Sky if you want to follow along over the summer. Again, 50 days of AFL fantasy starting on Boxing Day. Don't want to miss that one, guys, so stay tuned over the summer. Cheers.